Hello Group 2, I wanted to give you some feedback regarding your portfolio. I'm going to begin with your background. On your background section, what you need to do is, let me scroll down over here. On your background section, what you'll need to do is you need to add a map of the location of your restaurant, because you're talking about demographics but you haven't included any map, so you need to include a map that shows where your location is. The other thing that you want to do is when you're talking about your demographics, it would probably be best to go ahead and start listing some of the demographics composition of your area. So instead of saying the age breakdown of this area for 2012 is as follows, you want to take all of these bits and pieces of data and list those in a bullet format. If you scroll down to the second page of your background section, you start talking about the target market, which is a part of your demographics, but what you should do is you should take this and turn this into a section on its own and call this target market. Just remove this over here and relabel this as target market. Replace the word by over there with the word ranges from the ages of 24 to 54. Alright, I'm going to now switch over to your menu. Now, there are a few things that you guys need to improve on in your actual menu. Let me see if I can zoom in over here. On your menu, one thing I notice is the word table d'hôte, antipasti, and some of the other titles that you have are very small and they're very faded. When you print them out, they are very difficult to see. So what you need to do is you need to take all of these words and you need to go ahead and increase the size. So this right here needs to be a lot bigger. So change the size of table d'hôte, change the size of antipasti, and instead of using gray, you might want to go with something a bit darker, either deep burgundy to complement the colors of your restaurant, or deep red, or you may want to go with black, but get rid of this. This is way too faded, so it does not look good. The second thing that you want to do is the titles of your menu need to be differentiated from the description. In fact, the titles need to be larger and they need to pop out a lot more than the description. These are almost the same size, okay? They're almost the same size. So what you want to do is you want to either make this bold or make it darker or larger somehow, or change the font so that it's a bit more prominent, and then you want to reduce the size of this font right here for the description. Because when I printed this out on paper, it just kind of all blended together. So you need to have some sort of differentiation between the two. The next thing that I notice is you got this design in the margin on the left side. Now, this looks like you had a small little image that you expanded or stretched out, and then you copied it and pasted it and then basically started to splice it together. In fact, if you see in the square over here that I've inserted, there's a little line that shows you where you basically try to connect the two images and they just don't connect. Once you print this out on paper, it does look very sloppy. So do not include designs like that where the image is extremely stretched and looks like you basically kind of glued it together. It needs to be a clean, high quality image if you're going to include it. So either fix this, put in a better resolution, non-connected image, or completely get rid of it. My recommendation is to have something because it does look nice. It adds a little bit to the menu. However, I would replace what you currently have. Alright, the border around the main entrees that you have on your menu is a bit too faded, so you might also want to make this pop. You might be able to either darken the green or use double lines. But try to do something that basically makes it stand out. The other thing that you can do is you can add a three-dimensional effect to the box, which is doable. I'll let you guys do a little bit of research to figure out how to do that, but that is a feature that you are able to do on Word. Actually, I need to go back to the top of the menu. The price over here of the menu, you may want to go ahead and move this to the center and underneath the word table d'hôte. Don't put it on the same size, on the same line, and definitely do not use the same size font as the title right here. You want it to be smaller, so go ahead and move it to the bottom and reduce the size over here so that it does not basically pop out. That should not be the focus of the menu. You may also want to put a very small line that basically tells people that this is a 3-course menu, or some sort of a descriptor, because it almost seems like when I'm looking at this menu as though it's $28 for all 6 items, and that's not the case. So you may want to have a fine print under the word table d'hôte, or right next to the price or underneath the price it says 3-course meal or 3-course menu. You could also say something like, please select 1 item from each category. And whatever the description is, just make sure that it's in small font, because you don't want that to be the focus of the menu. Now, the one thing that I did notice also in terms of your menu is that, by the way, overall you guys did a very nice job with the description of the menu. The terminology is really good. However, one thing that I did notice is that you do have a table d'hôte menu with 6 food items. However, this is an Italian restaurant and you guys do not have a single beverage item. And if you do, I don't see it anywhere on this menu, and I did not see it in any of the recipes, and I did not see it anywhere on the cost card. So you guys are lacking the beverage options on your table d'hôte menu. You need to have beverages. If you're going for middle upscale Italian restaurant, you're going to have to incorporate some sort of wines to go along with, to complement the meals that you have. Okay, so that is definitely a major section that is missing from your current submission. Next, we're going to go over to your cost card. This is the file that you uploaded. Now, before I scroll through the entire document, let me tell you, if you submit this as your final copy of your assignment, you're going to get a 0 for this section. And I'll tell you why. Because this is not a complete cost card. You've got your recipe section, you've got your ingredients, and you've got your invoice AP cost. There is no extension whatsoever, and there is no number of portions in this particular document. Why? Because for some reason when you save this as a PDF, it chopped your document into 2 sections. So this is a second portion of your cost card. Okay, this is not acceptable. Okay, you can't give me a page that basically just has yields and numbers and there's no titles. Your cost cards need to be together. Alright, the other thing that you need to do is make sure that whatever font and text size that you use for your portfolio, so for the background section and for your cost card, that you're using the same size font and text, because this right here looks like it's Times New Roman. However, over here, this looks like it's a completely different font. It looks like it might be either a Calibri or maybe Arial. All right, so go ahead and fix all of your cost cards. Each cost card needs to be together, and no section needs to be separated the way that you guys have them. So you submit this, and you're not going to get any points for this. Okay, now let's move over to the product walkthrough. Now, the product walkthrough that you guys submitted seems to be okay. It seems to be very comprehensive. The one thing that I would recommend is that you may want to widen the first column right there, so it is easier to basically read the titles. And the titles over here of your menu items, it looks like you didn't use the exact same titles that you use on your menus. So it says here tuna carpaccio, whereas on your menu it says carpaccio di tuna or tuno, the Italian version of it. So just make sure that the titles are consistent. In addition to that, you also once again need to make sure that your text and your font is consistent with the rest of your document. This looks like an assignment that was put together by a whole bunch of different people, and every single person decided to pick their own text size and font. So you guys need to be very consistent about that. Now, your group also decided to incorporate in a second part to the portfolio, and that second part was the product walkthrough part 2. Now, this is a homework assignment that I had assigned, I believe, for week 1 or 2 of the semester. The information that is here is very good. However, I don't want you to copy the identical assignment that I gave you and basically answer all of these questions. You need to be using this assignment as a tool to help you answer some of these questions, so that when you answer them, you can take some of this information and incorporate this information into the narrative of your portfolio. I don't expect you to put this entire assignment here, okay? However, what you can maintain or keep is basically the equipment cost. This I think is valuable. You may want to just once again reduce the size of the font so that everything is consistent. And the information that you provided here can go as a part of your narrative. Don't include this entire assignment. I don't need to see all of this. All right. The next thing that we're going to talk about is your floor plan. Now, on your floor plan, if you notice this image in front of you, the biggest problem with all of the images that you attach with the floor plan is that nothing is labeled. You need to get into the habit of labeling everything, and this is something that I had mentioned in a previous discussion post online, and it is also something that I believe I mentioned to Sean. So Sean, I know you're in charge of this, so make sure that you're labeling everything. I don't know what this section is. I don't know what this is. So you need to label things and say this is the dining room, just say dining room. This is the entrance, lobby. Speaking of entrance, I see an entrance with chairs and tables, which means this is a dining area, but this really shouldn't be a dining area unless you have someone to receive customers, because looking at this image, it almost seems like you've got a door where people can walk in and then seat themselves. There is no host station. There's no waiting area whatsoever. So this may need to get redone. Secondly, the design of this restaurant looks very, very, very traditional in terms of the layout. And it also almost looks a little bit boring because all I see is a bunch of tables in a big, wide, empty room. There are no barriers, there's no plants, there's nothing to add any kind of ambiance. And even the tables and the chairs, they look like the chairs that you'll find in a church. They look like pews, basically. So you might want to enhance some of the imagery that you have in the design and the layout. It looks like you've got restrooms over here, but you've got a huge restaurant with multiple floors and lots of tables, and it looks like you've got 2 tiny bathrooms with 2 toilets. That's it. That's way too small for an upscale restaurant of this size. You're going to need to have a larger restroom with at least 2 stalls for the ladies and at least 2 stalls for the gentlemen, and you need to have at least 1 handicap accessible toilet stall. And for the men's section, you also need to have urinals. So it looks like you can walk in and use a toilet, but there's no sink or anything like that either. So this needs to get redone. The kitchen, once again, is very problematic because I have no idea what the heck I'm looking at because you haven't labeled anything. So label everything. I need to know where the food comes in from. I need to know where the refrigerator is, where the ovens, the stove, all of that needs to be labeled. You also look like you've got stairs that lead to an upper floor of your restaurant. Now, you're building a new restaurant, and when you do that, you need to basically have a restaurant that is ADA compliant. You can't have stairs unless you have an elevator. So if you're going to have 2 floors, you need to have an elevator. Alright, so I'm going to switch over to the next rendition of your restaurant. So once again, lots of tables, very open wide spaces. There's no decoration, no theme, no ambiance whatsoever. And then you've got stairs that take you to an upper level. And let's have a look at that upper level because that upper level is a bit problematic as well. Once again, very sterile. No decor, nothing. This is also an issue because if you don't have an elevator for your guests, it means that your servers also don't have access to an elevator, which means that you're going to be serving Italian food on an upper floor that needs to be carried by hand by your servers. So how do you plan on transporting the food from the kitchen, which is downstairs, all the way upstairs? You never want to have your servers carrying food up through the stairs because it is a safety hazard, especially if they slip and fall and they've got a tray that is loaded with plates and beverages. Okay, so you need to take that into consideration when you're doing your layout. Now, it may be a bit too late to redesign all of this and start from scratch, which is why I recommended to you, Sean, several times to start looking at layouts and designs that might be available on the internet that you can adopt, and then you can reference the sources of where you got them and modify them slightly. So that might be an option for you. Alright, moving away from the floor plan to the logo. The logo is actually pretty nice. I like the way that it was designed. It's not upscale and it's not too casual. It's got a bit of a bohemian feel to it, so it kind of blends in with the ambiance or the theme that you're trying to go with. So I like it, but the problem with the logo is that you have not incorporated these colors or the logo in any part of your restaurant. I didn't see this in the menu. I didn't see this in the restaurant. I didn't see it in any other part of your project. So where exactly is this going to appear? So if you're going to use that logo, tell me how it's going to be used and how you're going to use it for branding purposes. Next, let's go over to the prices. Okay, the next part of your assignment that I'm going to discuss is menu pricing. Once again, let's talk about the font consistency. This doesn't look like some of the other font that I've seen on your paper. You need to be very consistent and intentional about the way that you're presenting your information in each section. So have a header, label this as your pricing section, and then give me a narrative explaining that your restaurant is going to be using the Texas Restaurant Association method and why you chose to go with the Texas Restaurant Association method, and where you came up with your labor cost, your operating cost, and your profit percentage. Why is it only 10%? So provide a narrative. Don't just stick your menu items and put in a calculation. Now, speaking of calculation, if you were to turn in this assignment to me, you wouldn't receive any points for the pricing section. And the reason that you would not receive any points for the section is because your formulas are not correct. You're following the Texas Restaurant Association method, so you added up all of your costs, including your profit percentage, which is correct. So all of this adds up to 70%. And then what you did was you took 1 and you subtracted the 0.7, 70% from the 1, and that gave you your divisor. However, once you came up with the divisor, you didn't do anything with it. This calculation is completely wrong. You're supposed to take your cost per meal or your meal cost and divide it by this divisor, not by 0.7. So this is wrong. So let's go ahead and do this calculation together to figure out what your selling price should be. So what you need to do is you need to take your $6.04 and divide it by 0.3, and that should give you a price of $20.13. That is the correct price, okay? Not this. Okay, the selling price should be this amount right over here. Now you need to go and do this for every single menu item because they all appear to be wrong. So if you were to turn this section into me, you would not get any credit for this. Okay. Now you've also included an Excel sheet that basically has your initial Texas Restaurant Association pricing strategy that you decided to go with, and then you did something really cool, which was to go ahead and start with a base selling price based on the Texas Restaurant Association method, and then use psychological pricing to go ahead and to modify that a little bit. However, since all of your selling prices are all wrong, you're going to need to redo this again. Okay, so all of this needs to be redone. So let me show you what the correct answers should be for your menu, at least the base selling prices. I'm going to go ahead and take all of this right here. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it right here. What you need to do is, number one, you need to remove the section to the right, and you need to have a section here called Divisor. Okay, which is what was missing from your table. Let's go ahead and add borders to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a formula here to calculate the divisor. The formula for calculating a divisor is 1 minus the sum of all of these amounts over here. So I'm going to write the word sum, open parentheses, and then I'm going to select the fields that I want to add up together. There we go. Our divisor is 30% or 0.3. So the selling prices, let's go ahead and get rid of all of these. These are not correct. So the selling price equals the meal cost divided by the divisor. And that should be $20.13. So let's go ahead and do this for all of the other items on the menu, so it appears that they're all 30%, and then I'm going to populate the correct answers. So you see what the differences are in the prices between this section over here and what you guys came up with. These are the correct answers. Alright, so you need to go ahead and recalculate this. Now once you've got the new selling prices, now you need to basically create your psychological pricing that goes on the menu. So what is going to be the prices over here? Got it? Now, although you guys are using the TRA method and you've got all of these prices, I really don't know how these prices work with your Tabla DO, because you've got the tuna carpaccio at 20 bucks, you got the bruschetta at $1.97, and you've got all of these items that are over $28. However, if you go back to your menu, your total menu is $28. So how does this price connect with all of these individual prices? Okay, and how does that generate the 10% profit? So you guys need a little help with your math. So if you need any assistance with this, please let me know and we can work together, and so I can help you figure out how to get this done. Okay? Alright, so moving on from the prices to the last section that I'm going to talk about, which is your recipe section. Now, on your recipes, I love the presentation. Okay? And once again, you know, you've got some really nice font here. You decided to go with Cambria, and over here you went with the header, which is really nicely presented. So this is a nice clean presentation of your menus. I really like it. I love that you actually included a picture in every single menu item, which is something you needed to do. One recommendation I would have is you need to go ahead and number your directions. It makes it a lot easier for people to follow numbered directions as opposed to just writing them this way. Okay? You might also want to go ahead and maybe bold the directions just to make it pop out a little bit. Same thing here with the ingredients. There is one thing that is missing from your recipes though, because you're providing the ingredients, you're providing the directions, but what you are missing is the portion sizes or the serving sizes that this recipe produces. So I don't really know just by looking at this how many portions this recipe produces, so you need to add that in. You've also got a typo over here. This needs to be spaced out. Okay. Alright, so other items that you guys need to focus on. Your titles are not consistent. So you've got what is this? Cambria heading 24. It's nice and blue. But when you scroll down, look at the header on the second page. It's not the same. Okay? And you've got this huge gap over here. So use the same headers throughout your paper. And the comments that I made about the directions need to go throughout the paper. So if you're going to bold directions and number them, do the same thing for all of your menu items. Also, look at the font over here. This font over here looks like it might be a bit darker than this font over here. So I'm not sure if you change from dark gray to black, but whatever you chose to do, you need to make it consistent. Okay, so once again, images, text, all of that, they all need to be consistent. I want to see portion sizes. This image is bleeding off of the page, which means when you end up printing this recipe, this is going to get chopped off. So make sure that you resize this image so that it is a size that will actually fit within your printing area. Okay? Alright, let's go down to the last recipe because there's something that appears over there. Before I get to the last page though, when you've got notes like this, don't embed them with the rest of your directions. Okay, just go ahead and separate them a little bit so that they kind of stand out. And once again, number your directions. And try to keep your directions all on the same page if possible. Okay, so try to get this on to the previous page. Scroll down. Once again, title problem here. On your last menu item, you don't have a photo. You've got a photo for pretty much everything on your recipes, but this one does not have a photo, so make sure that you include one. Alright, that's all the feedback that I have for your group. If you have any questions, please post them to the forum and I would be more than happy to respond.